vehicles than you would find in the entire South African army. That's where I wanted to be, safety in numbers. I knew too well that a Westerner on the back roads was a prime target for remnants of Saddam's army, or the scores of feral Fedayeen gangs who were fanatically loyal to the deposed dictator. And I, 6 feet and 4 inches tall, with a pale complexion and blue eyes, looked about as unsemitic as you could get. I pointed at myself, and also made a shooting motion. "Iraqis shoot me!" The Kuwaitis shook their heads, and one spoke animatedly in Arabic. I gathered they were telling me they would refuse point blank to travel on the main road, but I would be safe with them as they were Arabs and they could talk their way out of any situation. I looked at the road ahead, a narrow ribbon of potholed tarmac, mirage shimmering in the hot air. It suddenly looked very desolate. There would be no American or British soldiers for hundreds of miles. I felt as conspicuous as a match in a fireworks factory. But my guides from the Kuwait Zoo were not going to change their minds, so what the heck? There was not much I could do about it. I couldn't very well order them back onto the highway, so I might as well enjoy the ride into bandit territory and hope like hell the clouds of billowing desert dust would disguise the fact that I was a Westerner in no man's land. The barren landscape we were speeding through radiated hostility, and I somewhat ruefully reflected that making a 10-hour journey through the back roads and alleys of a war zone might not have been the most intelligent thing I had ever done. But it was too late to turn back now, so I slouched low in the front passenger seat. Well, about as low as I could. The Toyota was not exactly built for someone as big as me to hunker down in. All the while I pictured Iraqi Fedayeen, militia fighters, specifically trained to hail Saddam Hussein as a cult figure, hiding in the dunes and relishing the opportunity to hijack a car. An unarmed white man would be the juiciest prize for them imaginable. I had no illusions that being a neutral South African would cut much ice with renegade gunmen. I was a visible Westerner, and as far as Saddam's Ba'athist fanatics were concerned, any foreigner would do. I forced the grim visuals out of my mind. At least I had 2 Arabs with me, even though they were Kuwaitis. However, that illusion was soon dispelled when my companions confirmed, through vigorous sign language and an interesting repertoire of facial expressions, that another reason they had taken off the Kuwaiti registration plates earlier was because there was no love lost between them and the Iraqis. Thanks to Saddam's vicious propaganda, most Iraqis believed Kuwait was the reason for the American invasion in the first place. Not only was I, a Westerner, far off the beaten track, but the welcome mat wasn't exactly out for my Arab companions either. As we drove deeper into the country, passing through remote villages unchanged since biblical times, I started to unwind a little. In fact, I even began to enjoy the view. It was like diving into another world where people were rooted in time immemorial. They had survived Saddam. They would survive the foreigners. They would survive the Fedayeen. In among the squat-roofed mud buildings, women drew water from communal wells as they had in the days of the Prophet Muhammad, while overburdened donkeys with drowsy eyes watched children running barefoot in the swirling dust. Time truly stood still. We travelled fast, to make sure armed gangs weren't following us, but even so, whenever the car had to slow down for loitering donkeys or camels, villagers did stunned double takes when they realized a white man was inside. Being in the only brand-new vehicle among the banged-up relics on the road also drew a lot of unwelcome attention to us. I felt dread creep into my belly. Surely the Fedayeen would soon know about me. Indeed, the rolling desert sands fringing the road could be hiding hundreds of Saddam loyalists. At one stage I saw at the roadside a man dressed in Bedouin robes that contrasted starkly with his wraparound sunglasses. He appeared unarmed, but there could be anything under those flowing garments. As we went past, he stared coldly before swiftly turning and disappearing down the back of a dune. Whom was he going to tell? Behind him, the skies were black, with the greasy smoke from burning oil wells blazing red and orange in the distance. It must have been the most expensive pollution in the world. At another village we passed a group of men gathered under a cluster of wizened palm trees. Hookah pipes were bubbling on top of a box, and the group's transformation from